Good morning. Hello, 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 all. I hope that you guys are having a great Thursday. Like, I just want to start off by saying if things are glitchy or if things are kind of scrambled eggs today, please know it's not intentional. Like, we have had snow in the South for the past couple of days. We've also had it's been kind of a glitchy start to the year, with the way social media has been behaving and that whole thing about, TikTok being banned and it wasn't. It was more like a timeout, but things are still like different with the algorithms. So work with me, just understand it's not intentional. What I really wanted to do with this live is kind of pivot platforms only because number one, it's a lot easier to share things. I know a lot of times when I'm going live, it is well, I hope it's beneficial and helpful to people, but at the same time, I understand that not everybody can show up at a particular time, but these being recorded on my channel will make things a lot easier. I hope. So I see a couple of people in here. Thank y'all so much for being here with me this morning. If you want to just say hey in the chat, let me know where you're from. I thought we'd start off this particular iteration of lives, because I have done lives in the past. This particular iteration, I wanted to really address some frequently asked questions about homeschooling in general, and then, just give those answers from my point of view specifically. However, if you've got questions too, you can, of course, put them in the chat, and I will make sure that I'm addressing your comments as well. So let's just get started with me introducing myself and how long I've been on this. My name is Tam. I have been homeschooling for 10 years, and I have 3 children that I'm homeschooling. They are ages 8, 13, and 15, and they are in grades 3, 7th, and 10th. So I have one in each type of schooling, like one in elementary, one in middle, one in high school. And I can tell you me coming into homeschooling was entirely accidental. However, in these later years, it has been more intentional. One of the things that I really like to emphasize whenever I'm talking about homeschooling is that it's an approach. Just like public school is an approach, private school is an approach. Similar to, adults being employed, kids with their education, there's different types, different styles that work for different people. And just because you've done one thing for a little while doesn't mean that that's how it always has to be or is always going to be. So I really just want people to understand where I'm coming from when I talk about my homeschool experience. And then I also want to make sure that you are feeling comfortable. Good morning from Florida. How are you? Good to see you here. I know, did you guys get snow in your part of Florida? Because I heard some parts of Florida also got snow, which was completely, I'm sure, out of the blue for you guys if you're in a part of Florida that got snow. So welcome in. And hey, how are you? I see your question. So you said, will I talk about high school and what is my approach? I definitely can talk about high school and how we are approaching it. So my 10th grader right now, she's using Time for Learning. That is her core curriculum. And one of the things I really like about it is, number one, it was recommended by a friend of mine who had been using it for her kids. Her kids have now already graduated. But also my daughter approves of it. Like everything that we use in our family is, kid approved. No matter what I bring to them, all the research that I do or, whatever recommendations I'm hearing about, they are still the final vote of whether or not we continue it. So I had actually started Time for Learning with my older 2, so my middle schooler and my high schooler, but my middle schooler decided it wasn't for her, so we did end up switching. So that's the core curriculum that we're using. Now, my high schooler is also on a debate team, which meets online virtually. The main debate class is once a week, but they also meet throughout the week to work on their debates together, and they get a new topic each week. That has honestly been a really good experience. It's one of the first online live classes that they've taken. They've been doing online classes for a while, but this is one of the first online live courses where I am completely not involved in it at all. And that has been a really good approach. And then she's also been taking Japanese for the past 2 years. And this year was the first year we employed a private tutor, which also was a good experience. So that's been our approach to high school so far. I have also, because we live in Georgia, I have also gone ahead and gotten myself aligned with what I need to do to complete dual enrollment here in our state. So if she chooses to, over the summer, think about applying, because some of the colleges here around us, they say you have to be 16. She's not 16 yet. So she wasn't able to do dual enrollment yet. But I've gone ahead and done what I need to do on my end to make sure that if she wants to apply for dual enrollment, that she is able to do so. So that's actually just going to be a journey that I'm watching along with you guys to see if she ends up choosing it. So that's been our approach to high school. If you have other or additional questions about high school, please do ask. I know sometimes people are asking about accredited versus non-accredited when it comes to high school. I will tell you, Time for Learning is not accredited because it's not a school. But I did also post a video recently just talking about the differences between accredited and not accredited when it comes to selecting homeschool curriculum. So you can definitely check that out for more details. But the basics, the bottom line is accredited means it's a school, and not accredited means it's not a school, but you can still use the same curriculum. And one of the examples I gave was the Abeka online curriculum. They have two different options. If you want the accredited version, it is a school. And so they will do all the record keeping for you, provide you with your transcripts, take care of the testing, and do the diploma for you. If you choose to do a Becca non-accredited, you're still getting all the same curriculum, but then it's up to you to do your own record keeping. And that's what ends up making it the cheaper or less expensive option. So hopefully that was kind of clear. I know I rushed through that answer a little bit, but just let me know if you have any other questions. And then I see you from Houston. You guys got snow as well. So I'm sure that was awkward. Like, I was actually in Texas the last time they had their kind of snowmageddon. I was in San Antonio. It was not fun. I will just tell you that. So hopefully you guys are doing okay. Like, y'all didn't lose a lot of power or anything like that. And then, hey, South Florida. Okay, crazy cold, but no snow. Gotcha. Southwest Florida. Gotcha. All right. Hey, Samantha, good to see you. And then you said you are committing to a no spend year next school year, except for your math, unless absolutely necessary. I admire that approach. I know you still have younger kids too, so I think that's entirely possible. And so I would love to know what you guys come up with. Now, since I did go ahead and tell what my oldest is using, I will go ahead and say what my younger two are using. I mentioned I have a 7th grader. She's doing Me Academy as her core curriculum, where she's taking 5 courses. So she's doing her ELA, which covers her reading and math, her reading, writing, and vocabulary. She's also doing math, science, history, and American Sign Language through Me Academy. She's also in the same live debate club as my older daughter. So this debate club is basically for just, it's a, think of it like a homeschool co-op for kids 8 or 9 and up. I want to say 8 and up is what was the age limit on it. So it's just 8 and up, but it might be 9 and up. And then my middle child is also in Girl Scouts. And so we actually have a trip coming up this weekend that I need to get prepared for. And that has really been a good experience for her because it allows her to try out different things. Like, that's what got her into archery. So I highly recommend Girl Scouts if you are on the fence about that. It's a good experience. I actually ended up being a troop leader for a little while. That was an experience for me. And I think those are all of her main activities. Oh, I forgot to mention, both of my older girls do weekly meetups through their library, but they're separate libraries. So, okay, we end up going to like 3 libraries a week, 3 different ones. And so my oldest has a meetup at her library. I say it's her library on Tuesdays. My middle child has a meetup at her library on Mondays. And then I also go to a library on Wednesdays, a different library entirely. So yeah, we are definitely getting our library cards worth. And then for my son, he is doing CTC Math for his math, studies weekly for his science and his history. And then for his ELA, vocab, reading, I have a ton of workbooks that I'm kind of throwing at him right now. We also do typing.com. So essentially, I'm creating the curriculum for him for his ELA and math, or excuse me, for his ELA, not math, using guidelines from Georgia standards, but also things that we've used in the past that I know work. Like we're also doing cursive practice with him. And then his electives are more so sports based. Like he just got signed up for soccer, which is starting next month. And then he's currently in Taekwondo. So those are kind of his extras. I'm trying to think, did I miss anything? And then I also have our schedule, which I can share a little bit more about that later. Okay, so let me jump back here. Samantha, you were saying that you'll have sixth, first, and third. Oh, a 3-year-old. I'm sorry, not third. You'll have a sixth grader, a first grader, and a 3-year-old next year. And y'all bought so many resources, too many. Okay, and then you said you've got stuff from companies that you love, but have never used. I definitely understand needing to like pump the brakes. Like whenever I go to a homeschool convention, which I usually go in the summertime, but this time I think I'm also going to go in March. It's very tempting. It's very tempting because everything looks so good and everything you can, if you've been a homeschool mom for more than 15 minutes, you feel like you can create a lesson out of just about anything, right? So I absolutely understand the temptation is hard. It is hard to resist. Okay, and then you were saying you have an 8th grader. It's been hard to find YouTubers who homeschool for high school. Your son wants to graduate homeschool high school. I completely agree. I would say the homeschool space is largely elementary school, like in terms of people who are sharing their experience. And perhaps that's in part because once you get to high school, it's not a lot to share because usually by that point, they are in some sort of online program. I don't know very many homeschoolers who aren't doing some version of online. And it's not as cute, I guess, to share. Like, I mean, how many times do you guys want to see my daughter working on her stuff on a laptop, or on her iPad? But I'd still like to talk about it because I want people to know that it's possible. You can absolutely homeschool for high school and it be an enriching experience. Like this evening, we're going to one of our local universities because they're having an event specifically for teenagers. It's an art-related event, which I love that for them. And we've been doing that event probably for the last 2 years, and it happens every so often. So, but those are the types of things. Like, number one, my high schooler does not like to be on camera. So if you've been watching my content for any length of time, seeing her is like spotting a shooting star. She does not like to be on. I always have to get her approval. If she's even in it for like 2 seconds, I have to show it to her and be like, are you okay with this? Because she's just very private. She doesn't want to be online. But I have seen more recently some homeschool high schoolers sharing their own experience, like they're becoming vloggers themselves. So who knows? Maybe we'll see a little bit more. Maybe, I don't know if you in your 8th grader have explored any of that online, but some homeschoolers, I have seen them doing day in the lives for themselves. And then for my 7th grader, she's more willing to be on camera. So hopefully she'll let me show more of what she's doing, possibly even this weekend, what we're doing, because we're traveling down to Middle Georgia for, like I mentioned, a Girl Scout event. It's a teen leadership conference that is hosted by Girl Scouts. So I'm actually really excited about that for her. And then you also says you love the library meetups, right? They are saving me when it comes to, the whole socialization is a question that gets asked a lot of new homeschoolers. And I often like to compare that question to, we're almost like speakeasies. If you think about it, like if you don't know what homeschoolers are doing socially, then you just think we're not doing anything socially. But it really is kind of like a knock twice, wink, know the password to know like where we are and what we're doing, because usually we're doing meetups while other people are at school and at work. So of course, if you're not seeing homeschoolers at the typical community events, then you think we're just not out there. You think we're just at home. And yeah, I always try to encourage people like, we're out here. We're just not out here when you're out here. We're like second shift or third shift with our socialization. All right. So let me pull up. I found this list of questions from a Bing search. They're getting their questions. They're pulling from HSLDA. So I'm going to answer them from my perspective though. So, and I'm not going to answer all of these specifically, but there's a couple that I saw on here that's like, oh yeah, I want to definitely give my approach. So like this one about, can I homeschool and work full time? This is a question that a lot of people, they tend to think is not a possibility. And I would say it definitely depends on your support system. If you've got a village, if you've got people that are supportive of what you're trying to do, then homeschooling while working full time, I think is absolutely possible. I do think you have to get creative with your timing. You may not be able to homeschool during traditional school hours. So, 7 to 4 might not be your ideal hours for homeschooling if you yourself are working during those hours. But I would say the answer to can you homeschool and work full time is if you have a village. Yes. If you are trying to do everything on your own and you're trying to like Superman this, Superwoman this, I would say show me how you're doing it, because that would make you kind of a unicorn in my mind in that situation. Because and I would also equate that to a lot of what homeschooling is. Like, you do need support. Nobody should be homeschooling in isolation. But it is absolutely possible. And then I see you saying, yep, definitely possible. This is your 5th year and you've worked full time the whole time. So thank you so much for putting your input in there. I do want to follow up and ask you, do you have a set schedule, or do you have a flexible schedule where you have more control over your schedule? Hopefully my question makes sense. Like, can you set your hours, or are your hours preset by your job? And you don't have to say what you do at all if you're not wanting to, but I'm just curious, because I know when I was working from home, I did have a flexible schedule. So that allowed me to be able to set my hours, and that also made homeschooling a lot easier. But I really want to emphasize, I do have a village. I do have a village to help me with homeschooling. Okay, and then while you're typing, I also want to pull up my next question, which I think a lot of us come across this question, or at least we ask it of ourselves. Maybe you don't feel like you are asked this question, but I definitely feel like I ask this question every year of myself. And it's just this one here that says, I don't feel confident to teach every subject. I think that's probably one of the biggest misnomers about homeschooling, is that you yourself, you from your own brain, have to teach every subject to your kids. Okay, I see you. I'm trying to like monitor this myself. Okay. So you said you're a nurse. Okay, so your first 4 years you work 3 days a week, and now you work remote, so it's much easier. Okay, thank you for adding that context in there, because I think a lot of folks do also feel like with the working full time, it has to be from home, which it doesn't. You mentioned that you're a nurse and you were working presumably outside of the home for 3 days a week, and so maybe 312, because I have a friend who's also a nurse, and that was kind of her schedule, was 312s. And then she might float one day, 1 or 2 days a month, to where she might go in on a Saturday. But you said now you also work remote, which makes it much easier. So gotcha. And then you also said that you have a village, which is a blessing. And then you said you do know some homeschoolers who don't, but that they're still successful, but it is hard. Yeah, we're saying the exact same thing. I completely agree with you. Like, homeschooling without a village in general is tough. Like, it's not even a financial thing, because let's say you are, I don't know, you have the money situation under control, but you're still homeschooling without any support of any kind. It is still, in my opinion, extremely, extremely hard, because you have to have support. This is not something that I would recommend anybody go into solo without considering what you're going to do as a parent to support when you need to decompress, or having a network where you can ask questions judgment free. Because as we know, if you've been homeschooling for any length of time, you're going to have questions, you're going to have doubts. And that leads me back to this question about, not feeling confident to teach every subject. If you're not feeling confident, who are you going to turn to ask those questions, or to get that advice, or to be able to maybe learn about resources that you didn't know existed on your own? That confidence is critical. And one of the things I do, a couple of things I do to help me with my confidence. Number one, I recognize I don't have to teach every single subject. I can outsource some subjects. So like, I wanted my kids to be able to be a part of this debate club that I mentioned earlier, but I don't know anything about debate. That's not a topic or not a subject that I did in school, except watching the occasional movie and a couple of YouTube videos about debating. Like, I don't know how to teach it to a child, but being able to reach out and find that support in the community, finding that online, that was great. So my kids still get to have that experience. Has nothing to do with me except signing them up and making sure that they log in every week and they're doing their debate prep. So I really want that to be, kind of that message I'm shouting from the mountaintop is you don't have to teach every subject on your own from your own brain. You can find the resources, whether, it's in this case, the debate club is a free resource. I don't know if it's going to remain that way, but that's kind of like the perks of getting in on something very, very early. But also you can find things very inexpensively, like Studies Weekly is another resource that I champion quite a bit. Good to see you too. Yes, I'm happy to be on YouTube. That way this will be, available later in the day. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to see y'all here and chatting with me. So thank you so much for being here. But yeah, just talking about like, when you are searching for things and resources for your kids, it doesn't always have to be expensive. Studies Weekly is a resource that meets every single one of Georgia's standards. I've shown this in a previous video where I show how the standards on Studies Weekly align exactly with the standards of Georgia third grade history. And yet this is not something that I'm having to put together myself. I'm not having to teach it myself. Now, do I facilitate it for my son? Absolutely. He's 8, so he still needs that guidance of staying on track. But it's not me having to put together this curriculum or feeling inadequate that I'm not assembling the right amount of resources for him. And then they add on additional resources as well. So it's a really solid resource in terms of meeting all the standards. And it's only $19 for the whole course. It's not like per month, or it's not a subscription or anything like that. So when we're talking $19, I mean, we spend more than that going to Chick-fil-A. So when it comes to, something being, not expensive, but still meeting those needs, like that's one of the resources that I'm talking about. Let's see. Samantha, you said most people in real life are homeschooling kids 3rd grade and under. You have a 5th grader who's almost 11 and you became the veteran, right? Isn't that strange? Like, I still feel like a newbie sometimes because I don't see myself as someone who knows everything. I definitely don't know everything, but every single year that I'm homeschooling is brand spanking new to me. So I always feel like I'm entering that next grade level as a novice, and I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for support. I'm looking for a veteran. But some people consider me a veteran, and I'm just like, I don't feel that way. It's like, I need an adult. I'm not the adult in the room. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, Samantha, with you saying like you're the one with the 5th grader, so they're looking at you as the veteran. So that actually, that pulls in another question that I actually want to combine. So let me pull up the screen again. So right here, we have a question about, do I need to be a certified teacher to homeschool my children? And do I need a teaching degree to homeschool my children? Those are kind of similar questions that I'll blend together. Short answer is no. I've not seen that in any state law that you have to be certified as a teacher or that you have to have a teaching degree. What I have seen, for example, in my state, you have to have a high school diploma or a GED. That tends to be pretty standard across most states, not all. But no, there's no academic requirements or certifications that you have to have that I've seen so far. Now, homeschool laws change, which is why I always try to encourage people to read each homeschool law, like read your laws like at least once a year just to make sure, because things do change. However, with regard to that frequently asked question, the answer is no, you do not. Okay, so let's do, I'm just trying to think which question I want to do next because some of these are like, do I want to touch on that? So how much does homeschooling cost? I think that's a good question to get into. And you guys, please feel free to share your own experiences with cost as well, because I do know for some people mentally that is a barrier. How much does homeschooling cost? I think sometimes when people think about homeschooling, they tend to put it in the same category as private school. And they're not wrong in that regard, because some micro schools, for example, do operate similarly to private schools in that they have tuition, they have, certain, they have coursework that's due at a certain time. They have certified teachers working in these micro schools a lot of times, but it still falls under the umbrella of homeschooling. Or you can look into, if you are looking for accredited homeschool programs, you'll come across things like Abeka and Acellus, and I'm blanking on some of the other more popular ones, but they will have monthly costs that are, $200-$300 a month or a couple thousand per year. And that feels like, a private school expense for a lot of families. But I want to say that, yes, while those exist, those are not the only resources that exist. And so just like earlier when we were talking a bit about, accredited versus not accredited, if you're going the accredited option, if you're looking for something specifically that says accredited on it, you're going to pay for that accreditation. That is going to come with kind of a surcharge. Think of it like a name brand, right? But you can also choose the generic version, which is just the curriculum, or you can choose to outsource to different co-ops and coursework that are not touting their program as accredited, but it's still the same information, still the same curriculum. And then you yourself would kind of pick up the parts that aren't included, like the record keeping, the diploma, the transcript, the testing, if it's required in your state. Those things would fall under your responsibility as a parent. And that's where you're saving your money, because you're not outsourcing that record keeping portion. So you get to save that money. I hope that makes sense with helping reduce the cost. I want to say, especially when it comes to elementary school, the elementary grades, oh my gosh, you can homeschool for free. Like, I say that without hesitation. Like, you can homeschool for free elementary school years. I would say that there are fewer options as you go up in grades. Like, you can homeschool inexpensively in middle school, but I would say you're more than likely you're going to start spending some money in middle school. And then for high school, while there are programs that exist like Easy Peasy for high school, which is, I believe, allinonehighschool.com or something like that. While it is free, I think if you're not going to, be staying on top of it with your kid, if you're not like really, 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 really on it and making sure that they're doing their required materials, it's probably better to go ahead and invest in a program that's like, $30, $40 a month, like the Me Academies, the Time for Learnings. And I think even Power School has a version that is not super duper expensive. So I would say my comfort zone, I would not try to homeschool high school for free. I wouldn't. But I don't want to be misleading. You can. I just think you might not want to, or maybe you shouldn't. That's just my opinion, though. That's 100% my opinion when it comes to the cost of homeschooling. All right. So I'm just double checking, make sure I haven't missed anyone's comment. And thank y'all again so much for being here. I'm seeing we're up to like 10 folks being in here today. So honestly, I was only expecting like one, and I thought it might be my daughter. And I don't even think she's in here. She's like, Mom, I'm going to log in and support you. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. So I definitely appreciate you guys being here. Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you for putting this in the comments. So you said also look into scholarships in your state. Some have strings attached, but it can definitely be worth it. Yeah. And also, as more states are adopting these education savings accounts, I know Georgia just is implementing for the first time this year their Georgia Promise, which we're supposed to be getting more details about that later in the year. So we shall see what like you said, what strings are attached. I know one string in particular is that your kid has to have been enrolled in a public school for at least 1 year, and the school that they were enrolled in has to be considered the bottom 25%, according to how Georgia ranks their schools, for your kid to be eligible for that scholarship. But it exists. It is a scholarship, and it's definitely worth looking into to at least know whether or not you're eligible. Whether or not you choose to apply for it is a personal matter, but definitely worth looking into. Okay, and then Samantha, you said most of the homeschool families you see homeschooling middle school and high school are definitely using all-in-one curriculums or Ambleside. I can never say Ambleside the first time correctly. I would say Ambleside. Like I want to add an extra L, but Ambleside online. Yes, I've heard of Ambleside, and I think that's one of the ones that I have included in my free resources. So again, possible, but you got to stay on top of it with your kids. Thank you. My daughter just came to show me she is in fact on here, and she's one of the ones supporting me. So that's nice. Okay, so you said you get homeschool curriculum catalogs to see what is out there, and there are a lot of them. Yes. And I think, this is getting the catalog sent to you is along the same lines of going to a convention, which I do highly recommend. I know sometimes people don't know about conventions in their area, number one. But they do exist. And I actually want to point out this website, which is That Homeschool Mom. Liz is I'm sorry, not That Homeschool Mom, That Homeschool Family, excuse me. I know that she keeps a running tab. So if you've never been to this website, again, it's thathomeschoolfamily.com. And she keeps a running list of homeschool conventions and conferences that she updates every year. And she usually puts on here the last time she's updated it. So she's on top of it. And I believe she's also been including online conferences as well, or conventions. So if you are searching for ones in your state, this is definitely a website to check out. Her blog is extremely helpful. Let me get rid of this pop-up. Okay. So let's just scroll down a bit so we can get to the states, because I know she does it by state. Let's see. There we go. So now here we go. So you can look at by state. She lists, typically in order of date, very organized with the way she has it set up. So highly recommend checking out her site if you are even slightly interested in a homeschool convention or attending one. I recommend it. They're oftentimes extremely child friendly. So I know some people, one of the concerns is not having childcare. This is the one I pretty much go to every single year. I look at that as like teacher development for myself, to be able to just, walk around for a day and find whatever is out there that maybe I didn't know about, or what's new with some of the companies that I may have heard about in the past. I've also gone to this conference. This is the Great Homeschool Convention. I usually go to the South Carolina one because that's what's close to me. I've often thought about going to the Texas one. We'll see. But here you go. You guys can see the rest of these states. I'm going to scroll through a little bit faster. But yeah, this is a great resource. And like I said, she updates it every year. And have we seen a state that doesn't have one yet? Because last year, I remember there were a couple states that didn't have one, but so far I haven't seen a state that didn't have one. Maybe I missed it because I was looking off screen. Okay, there you go, Washington, D.C. So I was just going to point that out. Like if there is a state where maybe there isn't a convention, she'll say so. But for the most part, it looks like there's one for every state, at least one. So that's excellent. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. You guys can bookmark that if you're interested in conventions. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm trying to make sure that I'm more consistent this year, at least definitely on the on the YouTube side, because I feel like, and I'm sure you guys have seen this and felt this as well, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, they're going through some things right now. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to let them, figure out their growing pains. Meanwhile, I'll be over here still posting what I hope to be helpful content. Okay, so let's jump back to the FAQs. And I want to address this question right here. How much time does homeschooling take? So I really want to be honest always with you guys, and that while I have a schedule, my schedule is a guide. Okay, hold on. What's going on with my mouse? There we go. My schedule is a guide. Okay, so I've got this one that's like our yearly calendar that says when we are in school, out of school, just in general for like dates and times throughout the year. But then I also have a weekly kind of battle rhythm. You said that you're basically just on YouTube. Yeah, I'm thinking that's going to be where most of my energy is placed this year. Like that's definitely, this is the platform that I would like to spend the most time on this year. I think it's easier to search things on YouTube than on the other platforms. And also, like I said, in times like this, it's a lot easier to show you guys a website on YouTube than when I was on the other platforms. Yes.
I'm watching you on TV.
Are you? Thank you. So yeah, I'm definitely looking to being on YouTube more this year. But in terms of how much time does homeschooling take, let me just start by saying what my state law says, which is we are supposed to be homeschooling for 180 days per calendar year, and then for 4.5 hours on each of those academic days. Now, does that always happen? No. Full stop. No, it does not. Sometimes it's much longer, depending on the motivation of the child that I'm working with. Sometimes it's much shorter. There's different tasks that we are able to complete much quicker. And I will also show you, actually, I think it'd be easier if I pulled it up than trying to show you the paper. So bear with me 1 second. I'm going to log in to where I do most of our record keeping and planning, and I'll be able to show you what our schedule looks like for this semester. Because I'm on it. If I'm being honest with you guys, I feel like I change every fall and spring what our schedule looks like. Hey girl, how you doing? Congrats on being a minivan mom. I definitely was in my minivan mom era a little while ago. And did y'all get snow? I don't know. I'm trying to remember if you mentioned that y'all got snow or not, because I know you're in Florida too. But girl, when I saw that minivan video, which I haven't watched the whole thing, I need to go back and finish it, which I'll be doing when I finish my laundry. I was like, oh my gosh, I have been there, and I never thought I would have been one. But yeah. Okay, y'all did get snow? Okay. And you said y'all schedule changes every week. So I think that's so real to say, though. We need to, admit to ourselves that sometimes we do not have this thing as locked down as we would like. And I think it's so helpful, at least it would have been helpful for me as a new homeschooler, to know that people aren't just staying locked in with their original curriculum, their original schedule. Like things can and do change, and they change often. One of the changes that we've had so far this year, and I actually posted a poll about this on my channel to ask, it's the middle of the school year. Are you guys still with the things that you had been with before? Some people said yes. And some people said definitely not. Like we have moved on. So I will show you guys. I'm actually going to show you two schedules, because I'll show you the one from the fall, and then I'll show you how I've kind of changed it for the spring. And I'm trying to do this quickly. Although logging into things when you don't remember your passwords, it's not easy. And then when you have so many, because I have so many emails, y'all. Okay, so let me just go ahead and pop up on the screen our previous schedule. So this was kind of our summer schedule. 1 second. There's no producer to the show. It's just me. Okay, there we go. So hopefully that's coming through nice and clear. I wish I could move myself out of the way so you guys could see that better. Okay, so you can kind of see the green represents our homeschool stuff. The blue is like the homemaker stuff. Yellow, that was the homeschool help desk that I was doing weekly. So actually this is quite an old schedule. As you can see, it's summer 2024. I wasn't doing the homeschool help desk live as often. during the fall. But then you can see the kids' activities that are on here. And then this was the plan back then. Now let me see if I can get this one to pop up. Absolutely. Yeah. Being able to manage our schedules and also like keeping ourselves in mind. Like, you mentioned like you're just one person. Exactly. Like we can't always, like, I like to think of, I have to change my schedule with the seasons because like, just like we don't have the same activities going on in the summer as we might in the fall or the winter. So why should I expect my schedule to stay the same all year long when the seasons don't even stay the same all year long? This one, the schedule that I just showed. So let me go back to it. Hold on. This is on iCloud, but similar to Google Sheets in that it's just a spreadsheet program. There's nothing exceptional about it. Good morning. How are you? Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, now let me also, y'all, if I can't find it on Google Sheets, then I may have to, because I did do one on Google Sheets, but I'm like, which one was it? I think I did it on a different email. So see, I got to log in again, different email. Has to be this one. Okay, 1 second. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So this is a different schedule. Let me pull this one up and hopefully it will come through clearly. Okay, so this is my current schedule with just my son, because my older two girls, as I mentioned, they are on Time for Learning and Me Academy. Can y'all see that? I'm trying to make it a little bit bigger. So they're on Me Academy and Time for Learning, which allows you to go in and establish what days you want to be off, if you want to be off on holidays. And then what I do for my girls is I just let them get it done for the week. Like whatever tasks are set for the day or for the week on Me Academy and Time for Learning, they do that in their own schedule, but they also know that they have debate club and they have all these, teen club and activities that they want to do, so that they need to have their schoolwork done before those events happen. But I'm not clocking them down to the minute like this, the way that I am with my son. So as you can see, I've got on here that we'll do CTC math, we do studies weekly, science and social studies, then we do writing and reading on Mondays, reading and typing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then we'll have a lunch break. We come back, we do some Duolingo, which is Spanish. That's what he's taking. And then our life skills can include any of these topics and subjects down here. And that's really where I let kind of the unschooling side come out a little bit and let him have a bit more say in what we do. So for example, yesterday, we were learning all about soccer and the history of soccer, some of the most famous players that play soccer, because that's what he's about to do next month. So that kind of covered our life skills portion yesterday. And then also, I don't know if you guys can see this little note down here, but on days like this, where I'm live with you guys during that 10 o'clock block, that will be swapped with life skills. So we will do our CTC math and everything in the afternoon, as opposed to in the morning, because I also on Wednesday mornings have started taking Pilates, trying to be in my little Pilates mom era. So this is an example of the schedule that we have been using since December. I don't know if you guys could see up here at the top, but I said like this schedule is as of December 2024. So it's not even that we've been on this schedule for a really long time, but he wanted to have Fridays off, which is similar to what my middle child does. She also wanted to have Fridays off. And so he wanted to mimic her schedule. So I had to come up with a way where we're still getting our 4.5 hours in that are required, but at the same time, still being able to get all of our work done. And can I just say, y'all, with this schedule that we have switched to, we're actually getting more work done than we used to, because instead of trying to corral him and maintain his attention for 30 to 45 minutes, what I'm doing is I'm literally setting a timer and I say, okay, we're going to work on CTC math for 15 minutes, and then you're going to get a 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back. That gives me time while he's on his 10-minute break, gives me time to reset for the next activity, put a load of laundry in the dryer, check in on my other girls, to see if they need any help or support during their work. And then I come back to my son, 15 minutes, now we're doing something else. And that targeted, focused attention for those 15 minutes has been so much more productive than, let me go back to the other schedule. This schedule where I'm trying to get him to stay focused for an hour. So much more productive. And then in this previous schedule, you can see we were doing ELA and math every single day, which we're still doing, but we're also doing our science and history more spread out as opposed to all at once, to where he forgets it in the next week. So this has been a game changer for me. And I honestly feel like we are way more productive doing it this way. So feel free to screenshot this and tweak it as you see fit for your needs, for your family. Maybe this will be helpful to you. I can tell you that there's a lot less pushback, because I guess, like with any person, 15 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, So if you say, hey, let's just do math for 15 minutes, that sounds like a lot easier, and there's nothing really to fight over or argue over than you saying, hey, we're about to do math for an hour. So I basically tried to take the approach of how would I feel, because there's some times where we're learning something and I'm extremely bored with it. I'm like, but we can do it for 15 minutes, we can get this done for 15 minutes. And it ends up working out, like I said, to more focused time and less corralling. You know what I mean? So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that made sense. Good morning. How are you? Good to see you guys here. Oh my gosh, I love being able to see you guys, like, pictures bigger than what they were on TikTok. And then, being able to pop up the comments that I'm addressing, as opposed to, like, sometimes I'll just read a comment and I don't say it out loud. So I forget to do that sometimes. Okay, good question, Samantha. So you said, do I feel like the CTC math trial is a good representation? It is, because the thing about CTC math is when you're on the trial and you're seeing those 3 to 4 minute video lessons, that's what they are throughout the whole program. These lessons are 3 to 4 minutes of instruction with, then you have the assessment questions that you can have your child do, and those PDF documents. So yeah, what you're seeing on the trial is just it's basically the first lesson of all the grades. And that same format is throughout the course. So if you're thinking this is a good fit, then that's great. And that's how it'll be for all the other lessons. One thing I also really like, I don't remember if during the free trial you get the email reports. I don't remember if I got the email reports during the trial, but when you are on the program, when you've actually signed up for the program, you are getting email reports every single week of what your kid did. You also get emailed if, once your child completes a lesson and they get a certificate. So that really makes record keeping a lot easier for me. Instead of having to go through, like on Time for Learning, I have to go and print the reports myself. I don't get sent reports on Time for Learning. But Me Academy will also send you like a weekly email and let you know how your kid is doing. That for me is a huge selling point. I think I would love if all programs would do that. Just send you a weekly wrap up of this is what your kid did in the last week. Even if your kid did nothing, for example, because CTC math, even if you've done nothing, like if you're on a break that week, they'll still tell you, like, your kid, this is what your kid did that week. You're still getting a progress report each and every week. So that's another thing that I really, really, really love and appreciate about CTC math. I'm feeling pretty good. I'll be honest. Like, I was nervous about getting on today because I wasn't sure if anybody was going to come over. But I'm feeling good, and I'm so happy that you guys are here with me. So thank you for asking. Oh, another good question, Samantha. So you're asking me, do I feel like he's retaining the information you use teaching textbooks, and despite your son passing with 95%, you feel like he learned nothing and couldn't retain the information? So part of that, I think, is just kids being kids, right? Like, even when you go to school all day long and you ask a kid, like, how was school? What did you learn? They're like, nothing. So part of that, I think, is kids being kids. But I will tell you, I think with CTC math, because the lessons are shorter, and for example, we're doing fractions this week. So there's been 7 or 8 parts to fractions. And there's a bit of build on to each part. There's like a little Venn diagram, a little bit of overlap to each successive part. I do feel like he's retaining the information about fractions a lot better, or just the information about math in general, because then after he's done his math, we go on to talk about, like, okay, where might we see this in real life? So obviously with fractions, you've got pizza, you've got cooking, you've got gas tanks, like, being half, quarter, 3/4, with gas gauges. So that's really helpful. And because it's short, sweet, and to the point, there's not a lot of fluff in CTC math, which I really appreciate. Like, I am so anti-fluff right now for my son. There's not a lot of, Bobby has 3 apples, like, where you're getting off track asking, who's Bobby and why does he have apples? Like, it's just much more to the point. And again, it's a lot easier to point out in real life where these things show up and why they matter. So I think that also helps with the retention. So very good question. I had my daughters, they did they also did teaching textbooks. My son has never done teaching textbooks, so I don't have that clear one-to-one comparison. But what I remember from teaching textbooks, I just remember my oldest, she kind of blew through it. She was just, just got it done quickly. There wasn't anything really to write home about. There wasn't anything exceptional that stood out to me that said, oh, this is amazing, except the cost. It was a very, inexpensive. I think it was $55 or something like that dollars for the whole course. But there wasn't anything about teaching textbooks that I especially didn't like or like. I was just neutral. It was a solid resource that got the job done, as far as I was concerned, because then when they did end up moving on to something else, it wasn't like they felt behind or that they didn't learn it. But also, I need to, I guess, put the disclaimer, we have other math resources here that were also helpful as well. So like we have the Big Fat Notebook Series Math, we have the math flashcards. We would do different math activities and games on education.com and just other platforms. So I guess I've never fully relied on one curriculum to do all the things. Oh, okay. Did y'all? Okay. So you said you repeated the grade with a different curriculum this year and he really didn't retain teaching textbooks. Got you. So math with confidence is what y'all have been doing, and that's been better. Okay. Oh, so wait, they stop at, because you said your son is 5th grade or 6th grade? I think you said 5th grade because you're the veteran of your group. Does math with confidence stop at, they don't have a middle school version? You know what? I'm actually not sure. Math with confidence. Oh, yeah. I see what you're talking about. So you're looking for things for middle school. Well, no matter what you choose for middle school, I would highly recommend the Big Fat Notebook series, because that's going to be a good blend, or just kind of a good backup to whatever you choose. And I think that will help to explain different topics, allow him to have that information presented in a different way. Okay, you said they don't have 5th or 6th out yet. Gotcha. So perhaps there's a plan to have that out soon. Okay. Well, again, whatever math you choose for middle and high school, I would get the Big Fat Notebook series books just to have in your corner as that kind of backup for when, not if, those questions come up about, what is this? What's this about? Or I don't understand this. Those are good books to have on your shelf just in general, for those upper level maths, because all the terms, all the concepts are in those books. And I've done a flip through on this page of the different Big Fat Notebook series. So if you want to look through that before you commit to buying, because I think they only show like 5 pages on Amazon, you can definitely take a look at that flip through. But I definitely understand where you're coming from. I wish I had like a quick, easy answer for you just to be like, oh, I guarantee you this is going to work. Like there is no guarantee, because the thing is, teaching textbooks might not have been a good fit for third grade, but for middle school, he might love it and do well and retain. It's like our kids are so unpredictable, right? And that's why for me, I always will, circle back to curriculum being like clothing, and that, if something doesn't fit or it's itchy or what have you, like we just have to find a different fit, find something that fits a little bit better. And when it comes to math, I would definitely, if you haven't already been to a homeschool convention, I would say go, because you're going to see a lot more math there than what you see on a typical Google page. You will meet different math instructors at conventions. Like I've seen Nicole, the math lady, at a couple conventions that I've been to, and her approach using Saxon, Saxon Math is the one that she works with. Oh, also, if you haven't been to a homeschool consignment store. So I just found out a homeschool consignment store moved sort of near me last year, and I definitely plan to go check them out soon. If you've never been to a homeschool consignment store, what they basically are is like a thrift store for homeschool curriculum. If you've got curriculum that you're no longer using, no longer need, but you want to kind of make a couple bucks off of it, you can take it to a homeschool consignment store. They'll keep track of it, and when they sell it, they'll send you your commission. So you're kind of like, you're not directly involved. But it's also a great place to go if you want to flip through curriculum that you're thinking about. So I'm thinking like Saxon Math, Singapore Math, those are super popular. All different types of math curriculums. You can actually go there with your kid even and like flip through and see if something's going to be a good fit before you commit to it and get it at a lesser price. And then you also know that this is a place you can come back to if it's not working out, and you can consign it. So just wanted to make sure I put that part out there, because I didn't start going to consignment stores, homeschool consignment stores, so maybe 2 years ago, maybe. That was probably the first time I went, and I've been homeschooling for 10 years. So definitely something I should have been looking into sooner rather than later. Okay, and so let's see. I pretty much did all the homeschool FAQs that I was interested in. I mean, they have stuff on here like, how do I get started? Which I'll answer that one, and then we'll probably just wrap up for the rest of today. Unless anyone else has any other questions. So how do I get started? What do I need to do to legally homeschool? Like, this is a question that gets asked oftentimes when people are brand spanking new. Of course, it should be asked because you should care what it takes to homeschool legally and do things correctly. A lot of people recommend HSLDA as their kind of go-to one-stop shop for answering this question. I push back on that a little bit because I know that sometimes HSLDA doesn't update as quickly as the State Department of Education's website. So that's actually my go-to. I would say go to the State Department of Education for your state. So in my case, that would be Georgia Department of Education's website. There's always usually a search bar that you can click on to type in homeschooling, and that should take you to all the resources and information for that state and get you started with what to do, especially if you live in a state that requires paperwork. Now, there are some states that do not require paperwork, like Texas. So when you go to their website, it's a little sparse, but at least you've gone there to read it for yourself from their perspective of what is required for homeschooling. Another thing that I recommend people do is look for the homeschool associations for your state. So in Georgia, we have GHEA, which is Georgia Home Education Association, so that you can get information specific to your state, not just generalizations that you might find online or on social media. So those are my recommendations. Once again, it's HSLDA, kind of the overarching homeschool website that people recommend, the State Department of Education for your state, and then the homeschool association for your state. And if you live in a really big state like Texas, California, you may have regional associations. So, Northern California might have their own homeschool association. All you have to do is just do a quick internet search for these things, and they typically come up in one of the first couple of search terms. So I hope that was helpful. And Y'all, thank you again so much for being here. I said I was going to be on for about an hour because I do have to get on and go get groceries and get ready for our little field trips that we're having later today and this weekend. But y'all, thank you so much for being here. This was a blast and I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, just let me know by leaving me a thumbs up or a comment after this video post just to say so. And I hope that I'll see you guys again here next week. All right. Bye, y'all.